Uh, Myself, Lovesh Sharma, I welcome each and every one of you to our today's webinar on an outlook or a kind of a discussion post-election, and it will be based totally on KLSE market. And of course, this will be version Dr. M. Mohammed, our newly elected leader. So, one thing is for sure that one needs to look at history, how things went in the past, and what was the scenario when we had Dr. Mahathir a few decades ago, how things were as in an investment perspective, and how was markets behaving. So I'll start off with something interesting over here. So I'll basically just open up this chart. This is KLSE, and this is the chart for KLCI. So what has happened basically after the newlywed? There can be certain things like removing the GST and calling out an interrogation or looking at the specific details of how things were done in the past. Now, those are not just at a particular level, but it's like in many ways things will be reviewed, not just the investment and ties with the China or other economies, how are things bonding, but also like recently scrapped the GST. Uh, and There were good, part of it and something as in bad part of it, but overall market discounted the same. So how were things in previous government, how the projects or administration was done? And first I will take to you to, this is the iShare uh, index, and I'll open up a different iShares chart. So you will be able to see what is the ETF. This is one of the globally tracked. The data is not that you know. So this is now a monthly data. So we'll do an analysis that is quite retrospective, as in these particular levels will hold on for years. So first thing is you need to know that we are at a point of polarity in the near term. Why I'm taking this ETF? Because it actually represents, okay, just a second, if you will be able to see what are basically the idea behind iShares ETF. So this is, I think, will be much better for everyone to understand. Now the data is not that far, but yes, you'll be able to see one important thing, that we are at a kind of a point where it has actually happened to be a point of polarity for the markets. Now, why I have taken this is because one thing is for sure, that it actually represents the true Malaysian companies that are actually available to trade and how are they doing. So I've taken most of the important Malaysian companies. Of course, first is the Public Bank, and then Tenaga, Malaysian Banking, CIMB Group, Genting, Petronas Chemicals Group, Genting Malaysia, and Axiata, Digi from the telecommunication, and so Sam Darby, Plantation and Group. Everyone would be interested in Sam Darby, and so that's why I've taken this, because it actually represents the true Malaysian company and how the economy is doing. So we'll come on to this. So I'll analyze the particular chart in price perspective, and one should remember that when these levels were marked, so I'll just take a pen and highlight it for you. When the last time we have had this opportunity, that was 2008, 2009. So anyone who's here for a kind of a short-term gain or short-term momentum upside, I would definitely ask them to not seek something which is in the nature as a short term to enter into the market. Of course, we'll discuss the stocks. I'm getting that query, but the thing is, because if you are going to address your investment in a very short term perspective and look at market as something in like next 5 or 6 month or 7 month, that will not actually justify the investment perspective. Why? Because there is something interesting going on here. This is the Malaysia. So I'll keep my analysis very focused to so that is the Malaysian ringgit. Now you would like to see how things have been for Malaysian ringgit, so you'll be able to understand. Now it has been deteriorating since early 2017 after we went on to above 4 levels, 4.5 almost. Now the important point to note here is that as we talk about kind of if I can get right, so if I can get a point of polarity over this level. Now the important, you'll see the sharp jump in Malaysian ringgit since April. Now this is something not kind of a usual, because overall trend or for the past few months the ringgit has been on a downward momentum. Now you can plot that particular thing over here and look at this as something is in January 2017, kind of mm, double top formation over here, and it all the way came down. But if you have been seeing the KLCI, I just showed you the point of polarity and the Malaysian index that was uh, here, right? So if you have been able to see what is the point of polarity in the iShares index of Malaysia, you'll be able to analyze the same thing in Malaysian ringgit, how it has actually made a double bottom. Now, the market itself, that's a Renko chart, it's a noiseless chart. Okay, I think there is some. Right. So this is a rock bottom for Malaysian ringgit. Now, when there is a kind of upward move in the domestic currency against the basket of currencies, First thing is for sure that the interest and the money is being given priority, or the smart money, to all the companies that are based in Malaysia with presence not just in Malaysia but to the world. So any particular stock that is actually earning in ringgits will be having an improved earning. Now, if you can analyze, this is Malaysian ringgit, and look at this sharp jump in last 1 month. When, of course, there can be many permutation combination that the inverse relationship of the index with a particular currency, it's always there. You can look at Dow Jones or dollar index. Since Dow Jones was up to all the way 26,000, 27,000, the dollar index was at 91, and it almost came down to. So these are of course kind of mm, analysis that you can bring on, but this is something significant during the election and what has been discounted. Now, even after the results, today is 15th, and it's almost like 18th today. See the kind of an upward move it has shown. And on the top of it, the good thing is that we have had very, very pivotal support. Now, these kind of supports works for years. Now, if you're able to hold on to 3.8, 3.9, I think this is where all the stop losses are being taken away. You look at this support. I'm using line chart because it's give clarity. I could use candlestick. I hope your answer is there. So, okay, here is a candlestick chart. So this is something very crucial, and if this level holds, which has been held for last 5 weeks, 6 weeks almost, can we see a same upward momentum that we have seen since 2016 to 2017? Can we see that? And that will be something very important to note in Malaysian ringgit. So that's why I needed to tell you about Malaysian ringgit, because my overall analysis is for iShares Malaysia. So this particular index truly represents the companies that are out there in Malaysia. Which company is there which can be used for investment, which company cannot. So things like this. So this is like monthly chart. Why I'm using every chart on a bigger time frame is because the analysis is not very short term, and it's actually for a long term, right? I mean, it's not something which you can go and do for a week or so, and um, it's not for actually a short-term game. Yes, of course, I got the question. It's not for something short-term game. It's gonna be for years. So interesting thing is that two main things are there that needs to be uh, seen as basically, investment, just for the purpose of investment. Just a second, I'm gonna get you the exchanges and right. So there are multiple sectors that added positive, that added negative. Now, first is of course construction. This is a particular sector where the volatility will be there. There is a one very, very simple reason to review all the projects that has been given in last few years. You can look at IGN Corp in that stock fell drastically to 15-16%, or Malaysian Resources (MRC). I mean, this particular, you look at the stock. I mean, you'll be amazed to see how the decline was there. This is just a 3 month. Look at this KLSE, which was look at the 5 days decline, almost from 9 to, and if you look at 6 month, from 1.290, 1.3 to all the way 7. That's an erosion of 50%. Now, important point is why we are taking this particular sector is that right, construction. So why? Because the dark clouds will be out in this particular region for next few months. Whichever companies have had a good time will certainly uh, have some kind of um, you know fund flow that will be taken out. Now look, if you I don't want to go into that detail, but you might want to add volume, so I'll just show you guys. I'll keep it a bit elaborative, okay. Mm, right, so here, first thing first, I'll show the volume. Look at the volume. It has not seen that kind of a volume since 2010, 2011, when it was being pumped and dumped, and you can see that particular bell curve. And look at this particular stock. I mean, almost from 1.3, now I don't think there is any supports if anyone was holding it. So that is a kind of a signal where people go and dump the stock, because see, if had it been a promising company, it would have given that kind of a return since 1990 or 2000. So Malaysian construction sector is something which you cannot look for a very short term. I mean, sorry, all the things will be reviewed, and what are the projects going on, if there was any connection with the insiders, and if you want to look at another example, then we'll move on to the specific stock and the chart. So I'll give you another example over here. I don't know if you guys track this company, but I'll give you the worst which should be avoided, and then I'll give you something where the money has been in last 1 week. So first we'll look at DRB. I mean, look at this stock, and I think if anyone tracks that closely, but they have sold a stake, of Proton to China, and that is something which was against the Matthew's. Just a second. Right. Idea of having the national company's stake. You look at this particular fall, and look at this two Petronas towers over here. This was being pumped, and then over here being dumped. You cannot see that kind of a volume. That time, last time you have seen back in 2010, you haven't seen that kind of a volume. So this is clear indication. Why I'm showing this, because this particular thing over here is nothing but sector rotation. How and volume speaks for itself. I mean, volume precedes price at times. and this is a clear case where the rotation is there. Look at this, and how it was formed and how it has come down. So anything that was against the political or national interest of the Malaysia, and that is being now taken out. Now, first important was I started off with Malaysian ringgit. Now, Malaysia is an economy which is looking at crude oil very critically, and it's something, if not a barometer, it's something which actually leads. Now, since Malaysian ringgit was not, so okay, here's the chart. I think look at this particular commodity, crude palm oil. It has been totally underperforming since 2009. I mean 16. Same, the Malaysian ringgit was down, and since the last time, the news of European of 2020, so that is something which was affected. Now this is crude palm oil, and look at it in last few days. If this is not that affected, then we'll look at something as well the global. I think it's been 2 or 3 times that I have suggested this particular company, and it has been on my list for last 3 or 4 months, I guess. I don't know if someone. And look at this, same volume. I didn't. I mean, I don't have to even draw it. Look at the volume over here and how the funds went in. Now, the important point is, has there been this kind of a volume previously? Yes, there has been. When was it? It was back in Q3 2015. Now, if it was so important, has particularly stock given a return over there? Yes. From 1.2 to 1.3, the stock has went down to almost what? 2.4, and this is 1.2. That's a kind of 100%. So, would it be possible without kind of a smart money coming in? So, yes, there was kind of a smart money, and this is, if not, this is smart money. This is not, this volume isn't. This is not speculation. This is pure fund flow. These small volumes, these are speculation. These are retailers. These are purely bets. Now this is not speculation. Look at this. Has these supports been held? Yes. Look at this. If not, you'll be able to analyze. Someone who was here didn't accumulate it here, but they get out or slowly release when it's in an uptrend. So over here, so this is kind of a very generalized idea, but it holds true and holds true for the test of the time. So what I wanted to communicate here is that sector rotation and fund rotation will happen. Companies will be dumped, companies will be bumped, taken off. Now, if I can, okay, my screen has been sharing. Yes, of course, I'll come on to that pair one, EcoWest and everything. Uh, just a second, I think my screen is paused. Show screen, right? You can see my mouse running here and there. So, I'll show you a kind of stocks and the names of the stocks, and how they are going to perform. be amazed to see how this is one of the stocks that was out there, and it how this particular stock was being dumped. I mean, this is data sonic. It was mm, plunged. Just, I think it is being over here. Okay, I'll just put it. There is a rebound in this particular stock, but you'll like to see how it was down. Uh, 2.7 to 0.9. I mean, this is how it is, you know, dumped in last uh, 2-3 days from 1.29 to 9.3, and kept on deteriorating, and then so any particular company that has a very good linkage with the previous government will be taken off. Now, which companies are going to perform? Now, I've already shared Filda Global, and this company is one of the largest, palm oil producer as well. So now you would understand why I showed you crude palm oil. First started with Malaysian ringgit and iShares, because we are going to play the next theme based on companies that are uh, uh, focused and having a rural demand as well. So, which company was up? Just a sec. So I've put the opcom, and it's all also here. I don't have to reiterate uh, what is like the news and what is the connection, but the unusual activity was particularly seen in opcom, and this is the particular chart. Now, this is a kind of very, if you say, volatile move. I mean, from straight away 0.3 to 1.185. Now, these are the times where you get trapped. I mean, you don't know what's the right price. You can come on to that through fundamentals or through data analysis or through quantitative data analysis or things like that. But these things are kind of a trap where you buy at all the way higher level, and then suddenly you realize that you are now part of a particular trap, because this is something, a political change, political regime change, and a shift in the portfolio. So it may not suddenly go up all the way above 1.25 and go all the way hit to 1.5 or 1.8. It will take time, let it consolidate, because one thing is for sure, that we have the volume over here, right? And that volume was seen back in 2015. That acted as a trap. So this is one situation where you get trapped, because if you look at the lower chart, you might not want to own this, because um, there can be strict profit booking if you're holding on to this, and certainly it can come down all the way to zero point 0.6. So anywhere near zero point 0.6 to 0.55 is actually the level for Opcom, and I think at such higher levels, one should not be, um, you know, adding these. Second is any company that is seeing kind of an export oriented. So one company which was there in rubber gloves and rubber as a product, as an input, has seen. I mean, this has been an outperformer. I don't have to like you see the kind of up move in this company, if you have kept an eye on it, and it's continuously in its upward momentum. You see, this is one of the qualities of a kind of a stock where you see um, value. Now I know there can be similar charts. Now since there is scrapping of the GST, consumer products, and these sectors, look at the rebound. I think Nestle was discussed by me in last webinar, and I did, uh, you know, uh, had a view on it. 130, of course, is the level for this stock, because the chart speaks for itself, gentlemen. The last time it went from 69 to 57, almost like 20% correction. The stock has not seen uh, kind of a correction, so one must look at basically the correction in prices that has happened, and Nestle is one of the stocks. Nestle is one of the stocks that can be looked at. Consumer products and uh, consumer products and consumer related products are the theme, because scrapping up the GST is going to improve the margin. So when I talked about sectors, consumer product is going to be the sector that is going to see uh, good move in coming particular time. It may not be straight away, but it definitely will lead going forward. So another stocks that can perform and that are good, I'll try to this has been Triple Corporation. Well, I have been suggesting, but let's look at Sapura Energy. I'll put the chart over here. There is something important here that needs to be seen, that the volume participation has recently picked up. I mean, at a price where I think many would seek to get out, this particular stock has accumulated a lot of volume. So one can look at Sapura Energy for a kind of a perspective where you have an second is, I think, Right, now we can see something which is a bit costly, but of course goes on to be one of the value gainers, and creating values is simply uh, Dutch Lady Milk. You can look at the chart. This is something phenomenal, and the kind of a rebound. Look at the volatility over here in a day. Suddenly it went down to 55, then all the way up. Now these are certainly not the days where you want to put your money and enter into the market. But if you can hold on to something for more than a year, um, these are the stock, consumer products, and so which can be added. I think the audio is perfect from my side. Yes, so okay, I'll just repeat it. I think might have. So why I'm talking about the iShares Malaysia, because these companies are basically export oriented as well. And for example, if you look at public bank, I mean, bank worth 85 billion, uh, I mean, represents the true uh, uh, kind of what do you say nationality of Malaysia. And of course Sime Darby, it's a business, I mean, conglomerate, and everybody wants to know what happened to it. So the way it has performed last few time, I think one can look at this, or one can look at any company basically having a, you know, related to plantation and crude palm oil. So this is something we not to be look at Malaysia, right? So this is why I've taken MSCI. Now these can be a perfect blend when you're going in there for a kind of a passive index strategy, where you don't have to be looking for specific companies, and you just go out there, you look at the part of the companies that are in the index, and you invest in them equally. Or you can look at specific companies, like I have Thrive Global, or consumer products company, or Top Glove, or Opcom Holding, or Felda Global. But something that one needs to be looking at is that um, you don't have to be part of the herd, that you go out there and buy it just as much as you can when the election out. You need to wait. You need to wait for the stock to consolidate, because if you don't, you become trapped. You see one time gain of one quarter, and then suddenly all the way wealth erosion happens. So if you don't want to be part of this particular herd, you need to wait for some time stocks to correct and then enter. Why stock to correct it? That's why I've shown you Nestle. Look at this stock. This is a quarterly chart, and there hasn't been more than two candles continuously red. As simple as that. So what you have to do is you have to buy this particular stock whenever it corrects. As simple as that. So this has been since 2008, even from here 25 to almost 20. So that is like a 20% correction. From here, that was the biggest correction, I think, 70 to uh, 58. I mean, 20% again. And this was 160. So I think if there was someone in the webinar, or I think it was back in December, sorry, January, when we took seminar over there, this particular stock was in the mind of me, and I've shared this particular chart. And this is something. So one red candle you have seen, the highest probability is that it can create another red candle. But on quarterly basis, this company has given a very good return. There is this one stock that I also suggested that was is something interesting happening in Sumatec. I mean, this stock is basically kind of a penny stock, and I mean, yes, it can take a lot of time, more than 1 year, 1.5 year, but one of the most crucial companies in downstream sector, specifically to the oil and gas thing. So when I say oil and gas, of course, they are already on fire, and I mean, I think we suggested just last time at 0.45 to 0.5. And why I'm suggesting is because it's something in the middle of a business restructuring, as simple as that, if you want to call out. And from downstream, I think there is a possibility that they will be going into upstream as well, so they can eat both side of the business, not just being downstream but also the upstream, and going to kind of uh, what do you call it? I mean, a transformation phase where you can see the add value which can be created. Now, why it is I'll give you another example. Uh, Cut this volume. Of course, I mean, if someone is out there and doing with this much of a volume, has to be a very smart player. Nobody takes that kind of a loss when you are backed by a financial institution and deep pockets. So that is one another stock which I mean can be eyed, and that's all from my side. But yes, I think there was a question from someone related to particular stock. I can just see that that is related to Eco West. So I think if you can just note it down if you're holding it, or uh, uh, any particular levels, because as I started, of course, anything that is into um, construction, and it's not even a business conglomerate, as I've uh, told you, something business. I mean, conglomerate is something which has something as is Sam Darby, or something which is related to consumer or consumer discretionary, like Genting or Nestle. I mean, that is one thing which you can look at. But then this particular company is purely into, I mean, construction. So there is a very high probability that the circle can be completed towards 3.4 to 3.5. I mean, there is always a kind of a point of polarity, and for this stock, it was at um, zero point 0.7 ringgit, zero point 0.6 ringgit, and that's what the breakout price was. But if you can look at it, it's purely a bell-shaped um, momentum, so it's going to go down to 3.4, 3.5, and it's something which may give a lot of pain to be hold. for a long term. I mean, for a long term, you need to identify something which comes with value. So, if you want to go for a value, I think I've given you a list. You can go with um, MSCI Malaysia ETF. I mean, if you want to go value, look at purely. Keppel Corporation is another stock which I have suggested in the past, and I reiterate my bullish stance on it. Opcom Holdings, Sapura Energy, or Top Glove, or Nestle, Traven Global, but eco-waste is something which should not be in the portfolio right now. If you have any questions, okay, you can post. I'll do a quick analysis of the KLCI and then we'll be taking off. I'll give you three stages of the KLCI. Sorry for that. And those three stages will clearly tell you, very clearly. I mean, simplicity. No, there is no possible kind of a possibility of re-entry. SM low. I hope you're doing good, but let me. Yes, you can post the queries related to a particular stock. Then we'll go on to. First, we'll go on to KLCI. Now, whatever you're gonna see is something very similar. Is something very very simple, and I'll let you know in which stage the Bursa Malaysia is. Since a long time, since a very long time. I mean, uh, that is the 2000. I mean, almost since 1982 to 2018 chart, and it's the brief history of Malaysian chart. And yes, I'm getting the questions. So how was it? Just a sec. Let me take it out for you. So, AirAsia, DRBH.com, no, AirAsia, look at the clear support that was by AirAsia pre-election to Najib, and then so let me just complete the KLCI because the index is important and how the index will do depends how the so first is that market has corrected back in 1998. I mean, we are going all the way back. So this was the particularly first wave. I mean, since 1986 to 1998, we have had a good run. I want you to look at this because this is important. So, I mean, that's almost a very brief period of bull run from all the way 200 to 1400, then all the way down to uh, 262, 260. So this was a very brief period. Now this particular bullish cycle has a possibility of next upward move to 2100. Now 100 has been the resistance over here. So that was the basic first or target, and it did achieve back to the 100% of this move, then all the way corrected. Now since that particular rally has ended, now we were talking about 1986 to almost the low in 1998, so we are over that. I mean, we are over that, as in there was a new bottom in place back in 1998, and uh, I mean, now we can okay, sorry, just remove this particular. So we need to identify, so that is blue, and blue is the oldest. Now we'll take something different for this. So we have another correction of since okay, I'll keep it as red for the second bullish phase, and so you'll be able to identify the cluster of so this gives us 100% completion of the wave, because the first wave was of this, and it has completed 100%. Now it is moving towards 2100. So I need to identify that the second wave that started back in 1998 and did a good overall healthy correction to 800, it has a higher target of 2050. So I'm getting a cluster of 2050 to 2100. Now second thing is that even if this bottom is a true bottom that is made by all the world markets in 2000, not just Malaysia, India, uh, Asia, China, America, if the 2008 is the true bottom, and the 2012, 2013, or the recent correction back in Malaysia, and which by the time it decoupled. So if that is can be taken out, so what is the particular levels that we might be getting? So I can take this as well if you say there is no problem with it, because I have done it in the past. So I'll put it again blue. So if you want, I can change the lines to uh, pink, or I'll just put it in green, so that you'll be able to see. So are we above all the resistances in the short term? I've put all the rallies over here from 1998 to 2000. 1998 to 2008, or 1986 to 1998, and from recent 2008 to this bottom at 1500. Are we above all the clusters? Yes, we are, definitely are. What is this consolidation? Will it signal a fall? As far as we don't go below 1800, the prices are absorbing the all-time highs, and once they are above 1880, a very high probability that there can be one-sided move to 2050 to 2150. So that's almost a kind of a 15% more upside. And yes, as someone clearly said, the stock, I would still ask everyone to go for value and not speculation. Go for something, those companies which are part of the Malaysian economy, which are very much based on ringgits, which has good representing ability of the domestic company, and which is working at a world scale like Axiata or Malaysian Banking or Genting or Petronas. So these are the company which should be looked at. And yes, If you want to not to, of course, go for a long term and look for something purely based on news and purely based on like relations of people with the present government, then Thraven or Top Globe or Opcom, and these companies can be worked upon. So I'll take the questions quick and then see AirAsia. Why I said SM is that first is that this is crude oil prices is very high. The crude oil, if is high, there is a very high possibility that the cyclicality may affect because fuel is one of the big input and big cost for uh, um, airway industry. Now, the open support to the previous leader by this company was seen. Now, that's why there is a big correction. If it goes below 3.05, God helps, it might go down to 2.4 to 2.5. And this is kind of a failure over here in the stock when it breached previous high and then just couldn't close above it and close all the way down. So if it's like going to go down, I think one can look at the wave structure and the fifth wave exists, So I think there can be a correction of third wave over here. And second you have asked is DRBH. DRBH. It's good, no doubt. But then something not worth looking at. DRBH, I mean, was good, but it is now at a pivotal support and it has been breached as well. So, I mean, if not stopped at 1.6, 1.5, it may all the way go down to 1.1 to 1. So there is no point in holding these kind of company. I hope I answered every question and I don't see I've answered KLCE, I've answered crude palm oil, DRBH.com. So I think that is on my part, but this is the first part, and I'm just giving you a brief overview. Don't go out there and put all your hard-earned money just directly into the stock. Let them consolidate because post-election, 20 to 25 days are seeing higher volatility. So there will be volatility, there will be consolidation. It's not like the stocks are going to go rocket uh, post-election. One needs to wait for the consolidation and look at the possibilities of connection. Okay, so I think that's all on my part. We'll end this, but there will be another webinar. I think that will be by the month end because then we'll have 12 days more after the election and from today, and after election it will be almost 15 days. So we'll look at sector analysis and then we'll go inside the sector. Now I've given you some sector like consumer products and consumer discretionary. Construction is something which we cannot look at. IT-based companies that are having good earnings and are seeing, kind of upward move in the ringgit. So any company that is being earning in the uh, ringgits and are export oriented are seeing. So any NRA or Witrox, all these companies are seriously good for a holding period. But how and when, we'll discuss that at I think around 29 to 30th. We'll do another webinar and look at the specifics of the sectors. So that's all from my part. I'm myself, Lovely Sharma, and thanks a lot for coming on a weekend and taking this webinar. I'll still reiterate that wait for the consolidations to happen. If there is a smart money that will come into the stock, it cannot just come in one day. It will take like 3 to 4, 5 days, 6 days, 10, 15 days to create a position and then ride the wave. So, thank you so much for being a good listener. I hope you have a very happy weekend.